Imagine driving past a row of charming little homes that look like they belong in a storybook. A patchwork of unique designs, cozy interiors, and a deep connection to nature. It's hard not to be drawn in by the idea of tiny houses. I mean, who wouldn't want a place that promises lower living costs, a smaller environmental footprint, and a chance to break free from the endless cycle of bills and mortgage payments? Tiny houses have been popping up everywhere, and it's not just the retirees or off-grid enthusiasts making the move. Millennials and Gen Z are increasingly captivated by the idea of downsizing to upscale their quality of life. And if you've ever daydreamed about ditching the clutter for a more intentional, sustainable lifestyle, you're definitely in the right mindset to explore building a sustainable tiny house on a budget. Now let's be honest, the tiny house lifestyle is all about simplicity, creativity, and sometimes a little bit of elbow grease. It's not just about living in a smaller space. It's about making every square inch count and doing so in a way that respects our planet. One of the first things you might notice when scrolling through social media or watching a YouTube montage is the stunning designs of these tiny houses. They often feature expansive windows that invite in nature, smart built-ins that maximize space, and sustainable touches like solar panels and rainwater harvesting systems. There's something incredibly inspiring about the thought of a home that not only looks beautiful, but also works in harmony with the environment. And best of all, it doesn't break the bank. So, why tiny houses? Well, aside from the obvious perks of saving money and reducing your carbon footprint, tiny houses are also a gateway to freedom. Imagine waking up every day knowing that your living space is exactly what you need. Nothing more, nothing less. That simplicity often translates into less stress and a greater focus on experiences rather than possessions. Plus, with the rising cost of living in many parts of the world, the idea of having lower utility bills and reduced maintenance costs is like music to anyone's ears. And let's not forget the creative challenge. Turning a few hundred square feet into a comfortable, stylish home that truly reflects your personality. It's a design puzzle that's as fun as it is rewarding. Before you jump in headfirst, though, there's some serious planning and design work to be done. One of the coolest parts about building your own tiny house is that you get to decide exactly how sustainable you want to be. That means choosing materials that not only reduce your environmental impact, but also keep your construction costs low. Think reclaimed wood, recycled metal, or even innovative materials like hempcrete. These sustainable building materials aren't just good for the planet. They're also often more affordable than the high-end, eco-friendly options you see in big-budget projects. It's all about striking the right balance between durability, aesthetics, and cost. When it comes to planning your tiny house, there's no shortage of resources out there. The internet is practically overflowing with open-source plans, design, software, and online communities full of people who have been down this road before. I remember stumbling across a forum where a group of tiny house enthusiasts swapped ideas about everything from window placement to energy-efficient insulation. It's like having a cheat sheet for small space living that can help you avoid some of the rookie mistakes that many first-time builders make. The key is to take your time in the design phase, sketch out your ideas, play around with different layouts, and really think about how you want your space to function on a day-to-day basis. Trust me, a little extra planning now can save you a lot of headaches later. Budgeting and financing are the next big pieces of the puzzle. One of the most appealing aspects of tiny house living is the potential for significant savings. Compared to traditional homes, the costs can be dramatically lower, which means you might finally be able to break free from the endless cycle of debt and high living expenses. But here's the catch. Even though tiny houses are smaller, the costs can add up quickly if you're not careful. It's not just about the price of materials and labor. You also have to account for permits, tools, and any unexpected expenses that pop up along the way. I like to think of it like planning for a big road trip. You might budget for gas and food, but sometimes there are tolls, detours, or even a surprise flat tire that you need to be ready for. There are plenty of creative ways to finance your tiny house project without taking on too much debt. Some folks have turned to personal loans or even tapped into crowdfunding platforms to raise the necessary funds. In some cases, alternative financing methods like community-supported construction or partnerships with local businesses have worked wonders. And let's be real, the DIY approach isn't just a cost-saving measure, it's part of the fun. By tackling as many tasks as you can yourself and sourcing reclaimed or second-hand materials, you can trim the budget without sacrificing quality. Plus, there's a unique satisfaction that comes from building something with your own two hands, knowing that every nail and board is a testament to your creativity and perseverance. Once you've got your plan and budget in place, the actual building process can be both exhilarating and, let's admit it, a little intimidating. It all starts with the basics, framing your house and ensuring that the structure is sound. Whether you're working on a trailer-based tiny house or a more permanent foundation, every step requires attention to detail. I remember watching a series of DIY videos where builders explained how even a small miscalculation in the framing stage could lead to big problems later on. It's kind of like trying to assemble an IKEA bookshelf without the instructions. If one piece is off, the whole thing can come crashing down. So take your time with the framing, double-check your measurements, and don't be afraid to ask for help if you're not sure about something. Insulation, roofing, and finishing are where you really start to see your tiny house take shape. Here's a fun fact. A well-insulated tiny house doesn't just keep you warm in the winter and cool in the summer. It also plays a huge role in reducing your overall energy consumption. By investing in quality insulation and sustainable roofing materials, you're setting yourself up for long-term savings. And while it might be tempting to go for the flashiest, trendiest finishes you can find, remember that durability is key. You want your tiny house to look amazing now, but you also want it to stand the test of time without requiring constant, expensive updates. DIY techniques can really come to the rescue during this phase. I've seen plenty of builders share clever hacks online, like using salvaged wood for custom shelving or repurposing old doors into unique accent pieces. These little touches not only reduce costs, but also add character to your home. And let's face it, a tiny house built with a few creative, repurposed elements often tells a more compelling story than one that looks like it was mass-produced in a factory. There's something undeniably charming about a space that reflects your personal journey and resourcefulness. And if you ever hit a snag, remember that there's a whole community of fellow tiny house enthusiasts out there ready to swap tips, share their own construction fails, and celebrate every little victory along the way. As you near the end of the build, the excitement starts to really build up. You begin to see how every decision, from choosing sustainable materials to meticulously planning the layout, has come together to create a functional, beautiful home. At this stage, it's important to step back and imagine what everyday life in your tiny house will look like. Picture yourself waking up in the morning to the soft glow of natural light filtering through a skylight, or cooking dinner in a kitchen where every tool has its own dedicated spot. The beauty of a well-designed tiny house is that it encourages a minimalist lifestyle, one where you focus on what truly matters rather than getting bogged down by clutter and excess. Living in a tiny house isn't just a change of address, it's a complete lifestyle shift. It's about embracing the idea that less can actually be more. When you streamline your possessions and focus on the essentials, you open up a whole new world of possibilities. Maybe you'll find that you have more time and money to travel, pursue hobbies, or simply enjoy a quieter, more intentional way of living. And while the idea of downsizing might seem a bit daunting at first, the reality is that a tiny house forces you to be creative and efficient. Every corner, every shelf, every storage solution has to earn its place in your home. And that level of intentionality can be incredibly liberating. I remember meeting someone who had converted an old bus into a tiny home. They told me that the process forced them to reevaluate everything they owned and every habit they had. In the end, they ended up with a living space that was not only beautiful but also perfectly suited to their lifestyle, a space that reflected who they were rather than what they had. That story really sticks with you because it highlights the true essence of tiny house living. It's about crafting a life that's rich in experiences and meaningful connections, not just accumulating more stuff. Of course, there will be challenges along the way. No journey is without its bumps in the road. You might face delays, unexpected costs, or design dilemmas that make you question whether you're in over your head. And that's perfectly normal. Every tiny house builder, no matter how experienced, encounters moments of frustration. The trick is to keep your sense of humor intact and remember that every setback is an opportunity to learn something new. There's a whole network of tiny house builders who have documented their failures as enthusiastically as their successes. It turns out that even the most experienced DIYers have had moments where they accidentally painted a wall neon green or miscalculated the space for a much-needed closet. Laughing off these mishaps and treating them as learning experiences is all part of the journey. One of the best parts about building your own tiny house is the chance to personalize every single detail. Since you're starting from scratch, you have the freedom to design a space that's truly your own. Want a kitchen that doubles as your art studio? Go for it. Need a convertible sleeping area that folds into the wall to create more living space? That's totally doable too. This kind of customization might sound intimidating, but it's also incredibly empowering. Every decision you make contributes to the overall functionality and vibe of your home, making it a true reflection of your personality and values. Let's talk about the practical side of things for a minute. When you're in the midst of construction, budgeting isn't just about crunching numbers, it's about being resourceful. If you're on a tight budget, don't be afraid to explore alternative sources for materials. Local salvage yards, online, marketplaces and community swap groups can be treasure troves for reclaimed wood, vintage fixtures, and even appliances that have plenty of life left in them. Not only do these options save you money, but they also add a unique, eco-friendly touch to your build. I once heard a story about someone who built their entire kitchen out of repurposed barnwood. It wasn't just about cutting costs, it was about creating a space with history and character. That's the kind of story that makes tiny house living so captivating. And speaking of community, one of the unexpected bonuses of embarking on a tiny house project is the wealth of support you'll find online and in your local area. There are forums, social media groups, and even meetups where tiny house enthusiasts share their journeys. Whether you're looking for advice on finding the best deals on sustainable materials or simply need a pep talk when the project feels overwhelming, there's a whole community out there ready to lend a hand. It's like joining a club where everyone understands the challenges and triumphs of small space living, and that sense of camaraderie can make the entire process a lot more enjoyable. As you step back and admire your nearly completed tiny house, it's time to think about the lifestyle that awaits inside. Living in a tiny house means embracing simplicity in a way that's both practical and fulfilling. Every day becomes a lesson in organization and creativity. You learn to cherish the little things, a well-placed shelf that doubles as a display for your favorite knickknacks, or a cleverly designed nook that makes the most of an awkward corner. The result is a living space that's not cluttered by unnecessary possessions, but filled with items that have genuine meaning and purpose. Imagine coming home after a long day to a space that feels both intimate and inviting. There's no endless hallway to wander through, just a cozy, well-thought-out environment where everything is exactly where it should be. The minimalist lifestyle that tiny house living encourages isn't about deprivation. It's about focusing on what truly matters, whether that's spending quality time with loved ones, pursuing your passions, or simply enjoying the freedom that comes with having fewer things to worry about. And while it might take a bit of adjustment at first, many people find that living in a tiny house actually improves their quality of life, leaving them with more time, energy, and resources to devote to the things that bring them joy. Of course, every journey comes with its own set of challenges, and living in a tiny house is no exception. There might be times when you miss having extra space for your hobbies, or when the limited room makes entertaining a bit trickier. But then again, those challenges often spark even more creative solutions. Maybe you'll discover that a fold-out table or a multi-use piece of furniture can solve more problems than you ever imagined. And if you ever feel like the walls are closing in, remember that the tiny house lifestyle is about constant reinvention. The freedom to reconfigure your space, add new elements, or even move to a new location is one of the many perks of living small. As you settle into your new eco-friendly abode, you'll likely start to appreciate the subtle ways in which a tiny house can transform your everyday life. With less space to clean and maintain, you'll have more time for the things you love, whether that's exploring nature, diving into a good book, or simply savoring a cup of coffee on your porch as the sun rises. And because every item in your home has to earn its keep, you'll quickly find yourself letting go of the unnecessary clutter that often sneaks into larger homes. It's a constant reminder that living sustainably isn't just about the materials you use or the design choices you make. It's a holistic approach that touches every aspect of your life. There's something almost magical about the way a tiny house forces you to reimagine what home really means. It strips away the excess and focuses on the essentials, creating a space that's not only beautiful and functional, but also deeply personal. Each time you walk through the door, you're reminded of the journey that brought you here, from the initial spark of inspiration to the countless hours of planning, building, and refining your vision. It's a testament to the power of creativity, resilience, and a bit of ingenuity. And in a world where bigger is often seen as better, your tiny house stands as a bold statement that quality and sustainability are what truly matter. If you're thinking about starting your own tiny house project, my advice is simple. Do your homework, be patient, and don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. There will be moments of doubt and plenty of challenges along the way, but each step is a learning opportunity. And remember, you're not alone in this journey. Countless others have taken the plunge and have found that the rewards of tiny house living far outweigh the struggles. Whether it's through trial and error or by leaning on the advice of experienced builders, every experience is a chance to refine your vision and create something uniquely yours. So here's to the dream of living small and sustainably. A dream that might just change the way you see the world and your place in it. As you plan, budget, build, and eventually settle into your tiny house, keep in mind that this isn't just about constructing a physical space. It's about embracing a lifestyle that prioritizes simplicity, creativity, and environmental responsibility. It's a journey that challenges you to think outside the box, literally and figuratively, and to redefine what home really means. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into building a sustainable tiny house on a budget. I hope you've picked up some valuable insights and feel inspired to take on your own project, no matter how big or tiny the dream may be. Don't forget to share your thoughts, questions, or even your own tiny house stories in the comments below. After all, this is a community of dreamers, doers, and those who believe that sometimes less truly is more. Here's to creating a space that's not just a house, but a home. A home that reflects your values, your creativity, and your commitment to a more sustainable future. As you wrap up your day, whether you're sketching out new ideas on a napkin or carefully planning your next build, remember that every brick, every beam, and every choice you make is a step toward a life that's richer in purpose and lighter on the planet. Building a tiny house isn't about following a strict blueprint. It's about forging your own path and daring to dream big within a small space. And who knows, maybe one day, as you sit back with a hot cup of coffee in your perfectly designed nook, you'll look around and realize that you've not only built a house, you've built a way of life that's uniquely yours. So, if you're ready to take the plunge into tiny house living, start small, plan well, and always keep your eye on sustainability and creativity. Your journey might be challenging, but every setback is a chance to learn and every mistake a stepping stone to success. Here's to a future where homes are built with care, creativity, and a genuine respect for our planet. Thanks for watching, and until next time, happy building and sustainable living.